Hello there, Rafik here again. I'm continuing this series on Oracle Database Advanced Queue Implementation of Web Flows. In my previous video, I created a single queue that received other messages and created an API that served as a producer to push other messages into this new queue. I also created a callback function and registered it with the queue, and this callback function consumed the other messages and processed them into the other table. It also created a business case for processing the order and completed the first task on it. This is where I stopped. In today's video, I will create a new queue for processing payments and create a callback function that will also consume payment information from the queue and process them into a payment table. The old callback function will be modified slightly to also enqueue payment information after it has successfully processed the order information into the order table. Let's see how we do that. In our previous video, when we trace our workflow with our case ID, this is what we got. We saw that the business case has indeed been created by a callback function and that the first task had been completed. The second task, however, was in progress, and this is because we didn't have any callback function to process that. And this is exactly what we're going to be doing today. Let's get to it. We're going to follow the same guidelines in creating a functional queue system. And then the first step is to create our data structure that will represent our payload. In our case, we are processing payment information, so we'll create an object that represents our payment. And this is what this code is doing. Next, we're going to create our queue table. We'll give it a name, and then we'll point it to our data structure and enable it for multi-consumer dequeuing. We'll then create our queue. We'll give it a queue name, and we'll point it to the queue table, and we'll start it up. With our queue in place, we're going to create our callback function, our naming process payment. It has the standard callback signature. We have a lot of variables. We'll dequeue the message from the queue and take a look at the payload, and we'll use that to complete our first task by processing the payment information into the payment table. We'll update the workflow to complete it, and we'll assign the next task. And this is where we will stop. We'll then add a subscriber to this queue and give the subscriber a name. And we'll populate the registration information object with a callback function and the subscriber name and register it to the queue. Lastly, we will create an API for enqueuing messages into the payment queue. It will receive data from the caller and use that to create a payment object and enqueue that to our queue table. This will complete our setup of our new queue system. Let's run it. It has successfully completed creating all the objects. We'll make a slight modification to our old queue, the old callback function. Remember, the last time, this is where we stopped. After we assigned the tags, we didn't do anything else. Because we now have a new queue, we're going to also enqueue the payment information into this new queue to process the payment. And this is what this line is doing. Let's run this script to create all the objects that we need. It has also run successfully. Let's go ahead and test our system, our new system. Before we do that, let's take a look at, let's walk through the testing scenario. We're going to kickstart this guy here to produce an order message into the order queue, and this will invoke the callback function to dequeue the order message and process it into the order table. It will also now enqueue a payment message into the payment queue, and the new callback function will dequeue that and process the payment into the payment table. So let's start. We will assume that customer number 3 is buying some things worth $705.50. So we'll invoke this API to produce the order message. If you compare that with the diagram again, this is the guy we're just about to kickstart, and he will have to produce a message into the order queue. Yep, it runs successfully. I'm going to commit this transaction. So we should now have a message into the order queue table, and that is right there. You can take a look at the payload, and this payload should have been processed into the order table. Let's take a look at it. Yep, so we have a payment here, an order here that has been processed into the order table. Let's take a look at the queue table, the order payment queue table. There is a payment message right here, and this is the payload. It should have also been dequeued and processed into the payment table, so we should have a record right here. Yep, so we do have a payment here. So this confirms that all the components of our new application are working correctly as expected, and we can trace that in our workflow. So if we take the case ID here and use that to trace the workflow, next Ninja tree, so we should have this one completed and that one completed and this one here in progress. Something is wrong. It should have been in progress, but it is in pending status. Let me see what I did wrong. I'm going to take a look at the callback function that actually enqueues that process payment. So this is that callback function right here, and this is the assigned tags. Oh yeah, this is a problem. It should be using the case ID to look for the tags to assign. Okay, so let me rerun this. Okay, let's go ahead and test it again. This time around, we're going to say customer number 5. He's buying some things at 2. We'll execute that and commit this transaction. Let's take a look at the queue table again for orders. We should have one message there with a payload. Yep. So let's look at the orders table. We should have another record here. Yep. So 94, this is the new record we just processed. The payment queue should also have a message. And this is the payload that represents a payment, which should have been dequeued and processed into the payment. So we should have another record right here. Yep. Okay, so that has also been completed. That is case number 94. So this confirms again that everything is working correctly. Let's use this new case number to go and trace the workflow and see if my modifications has indeed worked. Yep. Okay, now this is what I was expecting. So we have this one completed, that one completed, and this is in progress. This is what is happening. Now we have 2 callback functions to process the first 2 tags on our business case. And the last one will also assign the next tags, but we do not have any callback function to process that. So it is in progress though, but no one is actually working on it. I was thinking about creating another callback function with this new queue system to process the remainder of these tags, but I found that to be redundant. It's going to be the same as you've just seen. So I will leave that to you as an assignment, but if you still want me to do that, you can leave a comment below and I'll be happy to do it. So this will conclude our series, unless I receive any message from you that you want me to complete the rest of the tasks. I will end here and say have a good evening.